Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am very excited to welcome all of you to this podcast. Our podcast is a production of the New World Foundation. The New World Foundation stands as a beacon of innovation and insight, distinguished by its status as a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization, operated entirely by a dedicated cadre of volunteers. This foundation is unwavering in its commitment to excellence in research and thought leadership. With a vision to emerge as a premier research organization and think tank, it orchestrates multidisciplinary research efforts designed to address the complex challenges that define our contemporary world. Through the synergy of experts from various disciplines, we develop innovative solutions and strategies that are not only forward thinking, but also practical and implementable. We write books, articles, scholarly papers, and give public appearances to disseminate our expertise. Our work is aimed at policymakers, industry leaders, and the public, seeking to inform, inspire, and initiate change. And today, in this podcast, we are joined by Mr. Praveen Gujar.
Thanks, Saurav. Really happy to be here.
Hello, Praveen. Really happy to be with you here. And can you please introduce yourself and also what are your areas of expertise?
Yeah, sure. My name is Praveen Gujar, and I have more than 15 years of experience in building large-scale enterprise products, specifically in two areas. One is ad tech and cloud. And as you can imagine, these areas have been adopting AI and ML for many, many decades right now. So really, expertise includes in the AI and ML space as well. I've worked for big technology companies like Amazon, Twitter, and now LinkedIn. But the views that I express here today are mine and not a representation of any of the organizations that I've previously worked, previously are currently working as well.
Awesome. That sounds really great. So you talked about AI. How is AI, generative AI, like these days we are seeing more of, is revolutionizing the digital marketing space?
Yeah, so as I said, like my area of expertise includes in ad tech, right? So the digital ad tech has gone a tremendous change in the last 2 to 3 decades. But advertising has been forever, like since the humankind, you advertise in some or the other manner to sell yourself, to sell your product and services as well. But in the last 50, 60 years, advertising has taken quite a bit of a turn as well. Specifically, if you consider in 30, 40 years back, billboards and print media was prevalent in advertising. Then came the digital attack with the advent of real-time bidding and other things as well, where Google, Yahoo, and other mediums had a predominant effect on how digital advertising were consumed, how real-time and relevant data messages were passed on, and how they were measured as well. But I think in the last 2 plus years, since the introduction of ChatGPT 3.5 and large LLM models through OpenAI, generative AI has brought in a seismic change in digital marketing landscape. If you consider digital marketing, content is something that everyone interacts with. So it may be a text message, it may be image, it may be a video. That's the content that basically everyone interacts with when it comes to advertising. And generative AI is revolutionizing that area aspect of consumption as well. And yeah, I think it's still nascent stage and how what generative AI is able to do and can do as well. There's a lot more evolution to happen in the next few years and decades as well.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. And what are the key benefits, according to you, of generative AI in content creation of digital marketing?
Yeah, I think if you look at one of the there are multiple players in advertisement business, right? One is a brand, second one is agencies who often act as intermediate powerhouses that basically translate the brand messages and serve them to the users or the consumers of the brands as well. And these agencies are made up of multiple types and categories as well. There may be creative agencies, there may be media agencies, and there may be PR agencies, and so on and so forth as well. But if you consider media agencies and creative agencies, the core value proposition they bring in is what is the right piece of a content that, when served to the right audience at the right moment, generates the highest engagement with the consumer. So the brand can deliver their message more effectively and generate ROI, or ROAS is what's called in the ads business, for the ad campaigns that they're running as well. And in this whole value chain, content is a critical piece as well. Often these agencies or even creative firms spends hours together, if not weeks and months, to generate a piece of content that goes through various kind of a review that then gets served to the consumers through the ad campaigns as well. What GA has been able to really do is fast forward that process itself. Now, going from 0 to 1 is a lot more easier because GAI can get you from 0 to 80%. So the last 20% is the journey that these creative or media agencies have to do to make sure that the content is a lot more resonating for their customers as well. It's not just that, it's accelerated the pace of innovation as well. What used to take weeks and months for it to generate a piece of content, typically how does these creative agencies work, right? They go through a series of content, various permutations and combinations, and test it with individuals as well to see what resonates with a different and a diverse kind of individuals as well. And now if you're a human being, generating these kinds of a content on a serial basis is extremely challenging and time consuming as well. So GAI can parallelize all those aspects and make sure that the content creation is a lot more easier and faster as well. And cost of content production drastically reduces because now you're using less manpower or human power in the process as well. Finally, I think data that is often used in generating content is like, as you know today, like data has been evolving so much from megabytes to petabytes to terabytes and above and beyond as well. Like understanding this data and generating the relevant content that is in line with the data is not something that a human can actually do more effectively. This is where LLMs and JAI can play a much better role in translating the data into content as well, or building content from those relevant data as well. So again, to summarize, acceleration of creative innovation, 0 to 80% getting there so that content production is faster, making sure that the data and insights are fed into the content generation process so the content is more relevant to the user. You can scale a lot more easier because you do multiple permutations and combinations, which is now can be streamlined as well. And last but not the least, the cost of content production has drastically changed because of these LLMs and GIA as well. So these are clear benefits that you see from GIA in the digital marketing space.
That is amazing. That is really amazing to see so many benefits of GAI in digital market content creation, which leads me to ask you the second question,
Mhm.
that are there any gaps or shortcomings in GAI within this space?
Yeah, definitely, right. As I talked about, we are still in the early stages of what GAI can do when it comes to content creation, specifically in the digital marketing space, right? So if you're a brand, what are you most concerned, or what do you want to uphold is basically your brand image. So if you're Coca-Cola, you want to make sure that the color, the tone, the humor that you convey through these brand messages is in line with your values, with your language, with your tone. And often capturing these kinds of details for GAI models are very challenging right now, and that's definitely a bridge, a gap that we have to bridge in the near future to make sure that generative AI can really be a replacement for a creative professional can do as well. So yeah, like biases may creep in that may be contrary to the brand image value as well. That can in turn hurt brand images as well. So these are all the kind of challenges that you actually face as well. The second piece of basically puzzle would be is um, the harmful content that can generated by mistakes as well, right? Like we have all heard of various use cases where either a LLM for popular platforms basically did not generate an accurate representation of an individual, or did not identify as an individual as the right in the right context. All these kinds of problems do happen with AI as well. So the brands have to be extremely careful when the messages are generated with these GI models to make sure that the brand sentiments, the brand image is upheld as well. This is really where the human touch comes in. Remember, I talked about GI can get us from 0 to 80%. This is where the last mile or the last 20% of touch that a human being can actually bring in to make sure that they became the guardrail or the individual who can actually ensure that the brand values, the brand image, the brand tone, color, everything is upheld when the message is finally delivered to the user as well. So the second basically concern also is privacy concern, right? So we talked about how LLMs are powered by large data that the brands basically and signals that the brand basically get as well. With that comes the privacy concerns as well. What you today see is increasing scrutiny by both the regulators and also various platforms as well on how these data is mined, what is used, what kind of PII data is used to infer something about the user, and what kind of a consent we ask with the user as well. So definitely privacy plays a bigger role as well, because with the privacy you cannot have these models built with the privacy first approach itself. They won't be as effective as it is today as well. So these are all definitely few of the biggest challenges. Again, to just summarize, it's hard to be. It's not always that these LLM models or GA can actually capture brand's unique tone, language, or visual identity. They not always they can adhere to brands advisory standards as well. They may introduce harmful biases in the messages that needs to be carefully monitored. And you still need a human touch to ensure that the brand values is upheld and the brand image is accurately represented. And last but not the least, the privacy angle is a big challenge both for regulators as well as you and I, who are the end consumer of these messages as well, because it's our data that's being basically mined to generate these messages as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Praveen. I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts on the evolution of generative AI in the next couple of years in digital marketing?
Yeah, I think one of the so if you take a step back, for the ad campaign to be the most effective, there are four things should really line up. It's when the user is interacting with the brand or brand message, they should have the most important the most relevant content to them. The second basically is it should be customized for their own preference as well. And when they get to see the ad matters the most as well. So for example, if you're at work and if we basically serve you certain ads, you may not be engaging with those ads as well. So the content, the relevancy of the content, when it is served and what channel it is served as well. Today all of us use multiple devices. You're maybe on the on your iPad or your mobile, on your desktop, or various other channels as well, or even listening to this podcast, right? So if you serve the message in the right channel, that is more effective as well. What GAI can or may evolve into the next 2 years is at the time of serving these messages, understand the context of where which channel the individual is, what is the most relevant message at this point of the individual, where they are in a purchase funnel as well, and then customize the message specifically for that particular individual. That's like a holy grail in digital marketing. And if anything, GAI can actually help us go there as well. But of course, like for us to go there, all the challenges we talked about, brand safety, brand value, brand suitability, all those things have to be addressed as well. But really addressing, like if we hit that mark in the next 2 years, that's something going to be um, uh, a game changer. It can drastically reduce the cost of content creation. It can make sure that the ROI of these ad campaigns can be extremely high, because you're now having higher engagement from the user because of the relevant content at the right time and the right channel as well. So yeah, I think in totality, this can be a powerful ROI generator for any brands to use GAI, or any agencies to leverage GAI to help their brands serve the right message to the right consumer as well.
Wow, that's amazing foresight, Praveen. Now, last fun question. What is a big swing you are expecting in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 years or maybe even beyond as well. I think if you are an optimist, then we can expect a world where human being is completely replaced by, our creative professionals can be completely replaced by generative AI as well. This doesn't mean in a negative tone as well. So if you are an organization who is basically investing in content creation, you can actually use your human power for more strategic needs than just the mundane activity of content creation as well. So, totally replacing the human and making sure that the content is not only created, they are brand safe and brand usable as well, and served to the right individual at the right time and everything. This is where probably the biggest swing can actually come from. And this is very close to what generally AI level kind of sophistication is as well. So maybe 2 years is a stretch, but if you hear Musk, there is probably a AI that will be built which will be smarter than any human being in the next 2 years. So I'm hopeful that we reach that stage as well.
Thank you, Praveen. I have learned a lot from you tonight about generative AI and digital marketing campaigns. To our audience, I hope you enjoyed today's session as much as I have. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks all. Thanks, Praveen. It was really nice listening to you.
Mhm.